Hey, it's Ollie, and in this video I want to answer a very interesting question, which is how can I improve my writing skills in a foreign language without a teacher? Okay, now the first thing I would say is probably get a teacher, but that's not very helpful advice given the nature of the question. The reason I would say that is because look, with writing, there's one thing you need above all, which is feedback. You need someone to be able to give you feedback on what you've done, or else there's no way for you to know how to improve. But assuming that you don't have a teacher or you don't want one, then there are a few other great things which you can do. The first thing is to read. Now, all great writers do one thing in particular, and they do it a lot, which is to read. This is something that Stephen King talks about a huge amount, which is, you have to be reading. If the things that you say and the things that you write are a reflection of your thoughts and the organization of your mind, then what feeds your mind? Well, it's reading. It's the things that you expose yourself to, the things that you consume, the things that you feed your brain with. So if you need to improve your writing, then I would think about, okay, well, what do I need? What is the purpose of my writing? Is it for an exam? Is it for work? And then whatever it is, go and find good examples of that same writing and read a lot of it. Set time every single day to read that stuff, because it's going to give you a model. It's going to give you the best, a great example of that language being used, and you can literally steal that, copy it, take inspiration, model it, do all those things. Now, the second thing you can do is for slightly shorter things, like for example, if you're writing a diary, for example, which is a cool thing to do, doing a bit of daily writing in a foreign language, and you want to get a bit of feedback from that, what you can do is you can go to a cool website called lang8.com, which is Lang-8, the number 8.com. And what you can do is you can kind of post there something, and you'll get native speakers that actually come and correct it for you, which is cool because it kind of, in a way, replaces a teacher, although it's a lot less structured, but nevertheless you can get that feedback from a native speaker. What you have to make sure you do, which most people don't, is to actually, once you've got those corrections, you've then got to go back and look at them and see if you can learn the lessons from what you have missed. Another cool thing you can do is called one of my favorite activities, which is also one of the hardest activities out there, but an extremely effective one. It's called reverse translation. Now, what you do here is you take an original text. Let's say you're learning French. So let's say, okay, I'm English and I'm learning French, for example. I'm going to find a text in French that I like, quite short, keep it short, and I'm going to translate it into English. I'm going to write down the translation, my translation in English. Then I'm going to cover the original French, put that away, and then I'm going to take the English translation that I did, and I'm going to try and translate that back into French myself. And then you take the translation in French you've done and you compare it with the original, and you see the gaps and you see the differences. Now, this is a brutal activity because it is really hard, because what you have to do is actually, you have to take the ideas from your English translation and you have to produce that in ideally accurate French, and it's really, really tough. But what it does give you is feedback, because you get to see what's different between the thing that you've done, the thing that you've written in French, and the original. So that, in a way, kind of again is like a different type of feedback, that you don't need a teacher for, but it does require you to be very disciplined with this, because it's kind of tough work. The other thing you can do, which is great, especially for people learning English, is to get a exam writing book. So if you were learning English, for example, you might take an exam like IELTS, which has got a fantastic writing component to it, and you can get a book on how to pass an IELTS exam or IELTS writing or whatever, and go through that book. Because what they're going to do is they're going to give you lots of examples of writing, and they're going to point out different ways of how to structure your writing. They're going to give you useful vocabulary. And although that doesn't really give you feedback on your writing, what it does is it kind of educates you, makes you more aware of the writing process and the things that you have to consider in order to become a good or a better writer. And if you want, you could even go on and continue and take that exam as well, and that would be another, again, a great form of feedback. But so the main things to consider with writing are A, you've got to be reading, and B, you've got to get feedback of some sort, of some kind, ideally from a teacher, but if not, from any of the activities that I mentioned that will give you a way to compare your work with native speaker work. Hope that was helpful, lots to think about, and I'll see you in the next video.